Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and today I'm looking at a piece that I have been really keeping my eye on for quite some time. And not necessarily even just the piece, but really this entire line. Because today on this channel, I'm looking at my very first Legends in 3 Dimensions bust. This series is made by Gentle Giant, and it's really impressive. And I've seen these things at Toy Fair, I've seen these at Comic Cons, I've seen them in comic stores, but I've never owned one myself until today. So making its grand debut on this YouTube channel and as part of my collection, we're taking a look at the Gentle Giant Legends in 3 Dimensions G.I. Joe series Destro half-scale bust. That's a mouthful, but it's not even all because this is actually Profit Director Destro, meaning this is everybody's favorite Pimp Daddy Destro. This resin half-scale bust is limited to 1,000 pieces here, and it is a hefty, huge guy. When we say it's a half-scale bust, that means it's basically half the size of an actual person. So, I mean, while this box is bigger than my head, the actual statue will hopefully not be quite as enormous, but it'll be about half the scale of the average human being. Being at that scale means you can fit a lot of great details that you couldn't normally get on, let's say, a 1/6 scale bust, or what you normally get with like the diamond PVC pieces. So as for our Profit Director Destro here, we're going to just talk real quick about his packaging and then get him out. And so, yeah, just want to point out here, the front of the packaging has a wonderful image of our Profit Director Destro, but unlike other resin pieces, there's no other images of him besides that one on the front. You know, you can see here on this side and on the opposite side, it just has the Legends in 3 Dimension logo and just lets you know the name again of the character. And likewise on the back, I know it's going to be very hard to see, which we'll talk about in a second, but really nothing there except for some text. And that therein lies the problem. So we've got a really nice bio here about Destro, but you can barely see it. I mean, this is really dark. I'm right next to it, and the text is blending in so badly. I don't quite know if it was meant to be gold and it was just left out. I don't know what the deal is, but it's very, very hard to read. So I'm hoping maybe that's something they have fixed in other versions. I don't know if it's normally like that, because again, this is my first piece here, but yeah, if they're all like this, that's not so great. I mean, luckily, you're not gonna have this guy really in the box for very long, but kind of a weird design choice there. Likewise, it also lets us know that this piece was designed by Joe Allard and sculpted by Jorge Santos Souza, assuming you can actually read those credits there. And we should mention to you on the top of the box, unlike, let's say, a Diamond Select PVC piece, there's no sunroof because what's inside this box is all just styrofoam to protect the statue. But we do have this really great Cobra logo, so that's really cool. And you know what? Again, talking about the back here, how we can't see a damn thing, I sure would have loved if they used that Cobra red to be part of the font here. So maybe something they can consider in the future, because whatever they're doing right now, not really working. But hey, I'm not really here to talk about the packaging other than what we just did right there. So let's go ahead and get the Profit Director Destro out of the packaging and take a closer look at him from all angles. All right, and here is our Profit Director Destro out of the packaging. Let's give him a quick rotation just to show you guys what we're dealing with today and give you guys my initial thoughts as well. And like I said, this is the first time I've ever gotten anything in this wave, so this is my first time seeing anything like this up close and in person. And I could really understand why these things go for big bucks. And man, I'm definitely, this is one of those pieces where I'm kind of blown away by how much there is going on in this one, because wow, there simply is a lot going on with this statue. This is also my first time seeing the back of this base, by the way. We're going to come back to that a little bit later on in the video. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yo Joe indeed. Wow. So this is really pretty. I think this is the first version of a G.I. Joe character done in Legends in 3 Dimensions as well. So it's cool they picked out Destro, because Destro is also where the statue line, or the PVC statue line, initially began as well. So this is such a cool piece. So I want to point out too, by the way, when you do open it in that giant styrofoam container, you also get this. This is your certificate of authenticity. And I'm happy to say that the font at least is a little bit brighter than what we had on the packaging, so you can at least read it this time, at least most of it. The small print down below you really can't as well, but this is at least fairly legible, so credit on that. I hope that maybe in future releases the packaging will also be just as legible. So let's spend a little bit of time now talking about this piece. I think I want to start with the likeness here because, wow, look at this face on Destro. So again, this is Profit Director Destro, or as Joe fans will usually refer to him as Pimp Daddy Destro, because he's got the fur collar and the leopard's collar and like the bright red outfit. As far as the look of Destro's face, which is such an interesting face to begin with in G.I. Joe and just in like comics in general. But as far as like the face goes, it's totally Destro. They nailed this. There's no arguments here from me. There's gonna be no complaints about whether or not this looks like Destro. because it does. I mean, from every angle, they even have the cool looking green eyes here. I mean, looking at this portrait especially, I mean, it's totally Destro. I mean, there's no qualms about it. They nailed it. They nailed the look. They got the color. There's some subtle detail too, like, I don't know how well it can show up here on camera. I'm hoping it shows up very nicely. But for example, there's like little indentations on the face as well to kind of let you know that this is not flesh and that this is some kind of metallic casting that's on our Destro. Now, in this case, this is Prophet Director Destro, so we can presume that it is gold. But, if you want to be Star Trek like me, you could say it's gold pressed platinum, perhaps. But regardless, there's just great texture in this. This is not just smooth. This actually is textured and has a little bit of roughness to it. And plus, I mean, talking texturally and tactile, I think Destro was one of my favorite toys as a kid because his face was so interesting to touch. And likewise here, I mean, they even got the whole chin thing going on. It's a very mysterious character, and it's a very mysterious statue. I mean, even down to the bright green pupils. There's a lot of questions here that you don't get answers to, but man, does it look cool. Likewise, too, the dog collar that Destro always wore, which confuses me to this day, but I'm not kink-shaming, but all the elements of Destro are here, and it looks amazing. So, yeah, that's great. Let's talk a little bit more about the outfit also. So we've already mentioned this leopard skin collar, which does have a little bit of texture to it. Not a lot of texture, but there is a little bit here and there so that it helps it separate a little bit from the rest of this, because otherwise it's fairly smooth. I mean, if we talk about the shoulders, there you can see some of the fabric, rippling across his traps and into his pecs, but for the most part, it's fairly smooth. I mean, even actually the chest does have a little bit of porous texture. I don't want to call it entirely pores, but there is some kind of texture that makes it not just smooth like a PVC statue. There is something that has kind of more of a real feel, as real as you can get with resin. So yeah, again, collar, really cool. The crimson color here for him, very accurate as well. This looks really cool. It kind of reminds me too of the Hasbro version they did of him, the G.I. Joe Classified version, which I also have a figure of as well. I would imagine since this was done with Hasbro, they probably were just like, hey, here's the official colors, use these or else, and that's solving that issue. But it's all there. But I do want to spend some time also talking about Destro's medallion, because that's a really cool piece as well. So it is a separate piece, and I am happy to report that this is an actual metal chain here. So that chain is going around his neck. That does move. It's not completely glued to him, although I think, it doesn't even need to be glued. It looks like it might be glued further up perhaps, but I think it's just basically plopped down there and held in place just because of the pressure of Destro's neck and collar. Although I will say the medallion itself, that actually is glued down there, so that's also helping kind of keep that in one spot. That helps it maintain the shape that it should have, and it's really cool that they actually did include a proper chain because it looks so much better, and the way it rests on his clavicle and on his pecs, that adds so much to it. That's really cool. And as for the ruby-like jewel that you're looking at over here, this is cool. It's not see-through. It's very much an opaque jewel, but it still reflects light very nicely. So you're totally getting that look that you want to have with Destro, with that family medallion, I guess. I mean, I don't remember if any, maybe some G.I. Joe fans out there can help me out. I don't remember what the story is with Destro as a jewel. I've never been able to figure that out. I feel like they mentioned it in the Transformers vs. G.I. Joe comic that came out a few years ago, and they said it was like some kind of special family heirloom that also conveniently connected him to the Transformers, but that's a different continuity altogether, one that technically doesn't really exist. But hey, great comic, highly recommend it. So yeah, all these elements so far are making up a very pretty, very strong looking, impressive Destro, but you can't go this far without talking about the base, because this base is G.I. Joe perfection. And I think I want to rotate it again just so you guys can see all the details. So I believe the front of it is meant to kind of resemble, I think, I want to say it might be like Destro has like a forearm blaster. I don't remember if he does or doesn't. I think he does. Like he has a forearm attachment that has like little rockets that come out of it. In fact, yeah, he does, because that's what we have in the PVC statue. So, a part of my confusion was I was wondering if that was actually meant to be like another vehicle he had, because Destro had some of those vehicles that had the black and gold color scheme. So it definitely could also be similar to that. But yeah, now as for me, I didn't realize the back of the statue had design as well, because I'm only used to seeing this guy in the front. I've only seen him at Toy Fair and Comic Cons, and they don't really show it from any other angle besides the front. So the fact is, we actually have this really cool golden Cobra logo along with 2 grenades, and this is a reference to the Iron Grenadiers of Destro. So that's really cool. This base is perfection as well. Let's keep rotating it in this direction so you can see it completely. It's such a cool base. It totally does remind me of some vehicles, and I know there were some black and gold vehicles out there, and you G.I. Joe fans can let me know for sure what it was, what the name of it was, because I'm pretty sure I had it, and it was really cool. But this base is a knockout. This is such a cool looking base, and Yeah, this statue, likewise, I think is also pretty darn cool. This is a real beautiful piece. And I will say, this is an expensive piece. This is going to cost you a lot of money. If you're a hardcore G.I. Joe fan, it won't be such a big deal. If you're more of a casual fan, might not be worth getting. I mean, again, Legends in 3 dimensions, these are full-sized resin, half-scale busts. These are enormous. I mean, if I want to show you a comparison, I have right here, let's put Bret Hart right here. He's going to rotate with Destro for a little bit. But you can see, I mean, this Bret's about 6.5, maybe 7 inches, whatever he's going to be. So I believe Destro himself is about 10 inches. So this is 10 inches of very thick resin. It's very, very heavy. You're getting what you pay for with this guy. I mean, the amount of detail you get with resin casting is so much better than what you get with PVC. You have this chain over here. There's so many different elements, plus the wonderful base that you just saw too. And really, I feel like I'm breezing through this, but that's almost because there's not really anything I have to complain about here. All I can do is just rave about the details. I mean, as far as paint application goes, for example, this is spotless. This is very much flawless paint application. Again, they keep these things, I don't want to say simple, but these guys have really very much figured out a very efficient way to paint these statues and also add some realism. So, we do have some toning here in the chest. There's not really much toning in this fur, but there is some toning in this crimson fabric here as well. So it's very effective, very simple, but also very stunning paint job. And it looks really good, you guys, so I can't stress that to you enough. If you are a serious G.I. Joe fan, I think this is the piece for you, but it is a very special treat, I would say. This isn't for the average fan. This is for somebody who's way hardcore, and more importantly, somebody who's got space for a piece like this. That said, it could actually even be kind of fun with a G.I. Joe setup if you had this and you had your 3 3/4 inch figures fighting around it, almost like this is a statue of Destro. So that's just another way to think about this piece too. It could also be used for dioramas. That's thinking outside the box a little bit. But this thing is gorgeous, it's heavy, it's expensive, but I think it's worth every dollar. So, you might have to be like Profit Director Destro to make enough money to buy this guy, but if you can, I recommend it. So that's our look at the Legends in 3 Dimensions Profit Director Destro. This version that we're looking at here, I believe, is actually a previews exclusive. So if you want him, there's going to be a few different ways to get him. I'm going to hopefully have an Amazon affiliate link for this version, which you can find in the description below. But even if I can't find a link to this particular Destro, I'm going to have links to a few of the other G.I. Joe pieces that Diamond has been working on as well, because they've been really making some great PVC statues, including Destro, Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, and just recently Baroness, who we're going to be looking at on this channel as well. So make sure you stick around for that. So speaking of, until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today, and we'll see you guys later. Yo, Joe.